We are so excited to be here with you guys today. I'm Judy Teven, and with me is Melissa Sinanu. And today we are going to look at strategies to tackle high-stakes tests this year. Now, before we start, please feel free to throw any questions that you have into chat. Our Classworks team is here and ready to field them. And also know that this is an interactive session. We really want to hear from you. So use the chat to participate as we walk through these strategies and activities.
So when thinking about high-stakes tests, we often struggle to balance test prep versus content mastery, right? And while we don't want to be teaching to the test, we also don't want students to be so unfamiliar with the format of a high-stakes test that it becomes a barrier to student demonstration of skills, especially this year when they didn't take a test last year, right? So the purpose of the high-stakes test is to have students show what they know. So covering the concepts that students need to learn throughout the year using a format that is similar to your high-stakes test is a win-win. So how do we accomplish this with Classworks?
So generally speaking, spend some time each week on activities that mimic the high-stakes test questions and the content in the high-stakes test, right? But this should start right now, right? Not a test prep blitz the month before testing. This way, students have time to really get comfortable with the format of the test and the rigor of the questions. So today, we'd like to offer 6 strategies to ease the stress for both teachers and students.
So these strategies that we're going to go over are using data, multiple choice strategies, instruction on DOK words, previewing for a purpose, strategies for planning written responses, and creating positivity. Where possible, we'll connect these specifically to Classworks as well.
Now, as we do walk through each of these strategies, we do have some things that we want you to keep an eye out for. So find your favorite test power strategy when we talk about, and then when we talk about data, find a report that you think will help you monitor students as you keep high stakes tests in mind. And lastly, think about what strategy that you heard today that you will put into practice right away. Now we're going to come back to these questions, the very same questions at the end of our session.
So our first strategy today is using data. So let's start with a question for you to answer. You can just put your responses into chat. What is the most valuable data you currently use when determining student groups? Maybe skill mastery, growth data from your screener maybe identifying student performance levels, maybe Lexiles. Just go ahead and type in whatever you use today when you do student grouping. Grouping is hard. It's absolutely right.
Okay.
Benchmarking, yep, that's right. STAR. But it's one of the most, Judy and I talk about this all the time, it's one of the most challenging things is figuring out how to do dynamic grouping. Mm-hmm. Lexile scores. Map, yep, map data is great. So, and we all know that data is super important, but it's how we use it that really counts, right? So data measures growth, it determines students' strengths and weaknesses, it identifies where students need more help. MAP does that, obviously, your Lexiles will do that when you're grouping kids. I mean, it's exactly right. So let's take the data that you're already using and think about how this can apply to supporting students as we prepare for the high stakes tests. So we're going to walk through 3 Classworks reports that work perfectly together to help you keep navigating dynamic grouping. The first is the RTI recommendations report. So this helps us identify students' strengths and weaknesses. The universal screener data provides student performance levels and pinpoints where students are excelling and where they're struggling. So looking at this report, the RTI recommendations report, it shows student proficiencies by domain. Are my students ready for instruction on grade level in this content area? Green means yes, and red means no. So let's take that further. This gives you a look at how the class did on those strands specifically, and it also shows you underneath specifically who struggled with the concept. So when you think about the strands your whole class is ready for on grade level, you can quickly see in this example, there may be some remedial needs for all the strands, except maybe operations. So that gives you kind of the class view. Then on the next page, you can see specifically how each student performed on all of the key strands. This will help you as you begin teaching the on-grade level skills to prepare students for the high-stakes tests, who might need prerequisites or extra attention during office hours, right? That's pretty evident here. Then the next report that we want to talk about is our Universal Screener Grouping Report. So in looking at the Universal Screener Grouping Report, we see the exact scores for each domain, and students within the class are grouped according to those levels. So how does this help teachers? Well, before you start a unit within, say, geometry, you can review those groups to see who will need some additional support, maybe a review of prerequisite skills before diving in. Then you can use this data to group students for small group instruction, and you can keep this dynamic all year long, changing groups as skill needs fluctuate. However, if you're screening just 3 times a year, how can you adjust your groups as students grow? And that's really where the individualized learning comes in, right? As students work on the skills within their individualized learning, you can track that mastery to see where students are excelling and where they need more support. So this IL Standards Mastery Report is perfect for this. I can see that Anne has skills assigned in geometry, and she has since mastered certain skills in that area. Now I know to shift her group as we move into more advanced concepts. So how does grouping help on the high stakes tests? These best practices keep student learning relevant and challenging while addressing barriers that may hinder students from learning new concepts, ultimately measured on the high stakes tests. So one of our closing questions is to discuss which report you think is the most meaningful of these 3 when thinking about getting ready for your high stakes tests. Are there any questions we can answer before you decide? Okay, no. So using data helps us teach the right group of students the right skills. Strategy number 2 is about multiple choice strategies we can incorporate into instructional practice.
That's right. So we're going to start with teaching and practicing with multiple choice strategies. Okay, so this is something that should be embedded in your curriculum. So classroom instruction, you think about, you're focusing on key standards that mirror those heavily weighted concepts on your high stakes test, right? So while practicing these concepts, model strategies for answering the types of questions, right? The multiple choice questions that will be measuring the student understanding of those concepts. Okay, so we're going to look at a very specific example. All right, so for this example, let's look at the text-dependent questions that we have in Classworks classroom reading passages. These questions are perfect for modeling this strategy. So you're going to you have all these digital tools to set up this process to tackle questions. You're going to practice eliminating distractors and choosing the best answer, right? So first you use the highlighter to identify important words in the question. As you see here, we have highlighted best, technology, and benefit, right? Because all have to be present in order to arrive at the correct answer. So then when students highlight the answers, they can eliminate right away. Here you see choice C is highlighted because it's not related to technology at all. So next I'm going to highlight B here. So we'll get our highlighter going. Oops, sorry. There we go. Because it is not related, because even though the factory made clothing might be technologically connected, the people don't want to lose their cultural craftsmanship. So that's not a benefit, right? So the top answer is related to technology, as you can see from my highlights in there, but it isn't showing any kind of a benefit. So the best answer is D at the bottom, because taking pictures is connected to technology and posting on social media, etc. And they're getting money for that. So that's definitely a benefit. So you have all of that in place. So walking through these things is what brings this to life for the kids. So as students make their final choice, have them add a note next to the answer choice indicating why they selected that answer. this gives teachers insight into student, thinking. And when they're incorrect, it allows them to step in and get students back on track, right? Now, it's important to support teachers too, right? So we want to go over here to our teacher support page, right? So all of the Classworks classroom reading passages have this teacher resource page that includes distractor rationales for each question to give teachers the talking points that they need when guiding students.
Well, this is certainly a test power strategy we see with Classworks in your classrooms all around the country. So our next strategy is about instructing on DOK words, including explicit instruction on depth of knowledge words by intertwining DOK words into all subjects, right? So this is a great DOK word chart. It's the perfect visual to keep these words alive within the instruction, right? The answers students produce when asked to name the parts of a plant, which is DOK 1, versus comparing the characteristics of plants and animals, which is DOK 2, are very different products. So let's look at DOK 2. Can you share in chat what activity a student might be doing at this level? Like, I think for first graders, they might take pictures of animals and sort them by animal groups. For DOK 3, they might build their own zoo and decide how they want to organize it. Judy also said yesterday, DOK words, very difficult. It's a challenge.
Well, and thinking about, students needing to organize their data, using classifications, things like that, bring that, higher, kind of bump up your DOK 1s, right? Right, data analysis. Your compare and contrast, your paired passages, things like that do that, right? And then DOK, like we said, 3 is going to bring it just to another level where they're really having to dig a little bit deeper, evaluate and explain and support and really find evidence for that.
Yep, graphic organizers. Yep, and we're going to talk about those later too, for sure.
Yeah.
I should.
All right, so we do have some examples with Classworks content to show you for these as well. And on the screen, you see our teacher resource page that actually breaks down the DOKs for these math activities. So let's talk about what this looks like when you're interacting with math curriculum. Have students learn those words in those questions to identify the expected action. I think that's the big takeaway here. In Classworks, for example, Classroom Math differentiates the problems automatically for you by those DOK levels. Okay, so we're going to jump into an activity itself, right? So here they are differentiated, and even though they're all addressing a single standard, right? You see that they progress so that problems build in complexity as students work through. Here is the progressing, which is the basic level of the standard, where we see the friendly numbers. We have multiple choice answers for students to select from, but then the problems are going to move forward, give less support for students, and add more complexity. So for example, if we jump to expanding over here, you can see that you have now a problem with multiple steps with no answer choices for the student. They are tasked with solving, drawing that model, and writing out their thinking, all to answer the problem, right? So really taking it to the level that we want all students to have for high stakes tests, right? So then when we want to practice investigation, we have these different students' work samples, right? To really for the students to compare and then identify which is correct, as well as perform that error analysis, which is so critical, right? And these are your critique and precision problems, right? And working with these weekly are really going to give you the types of problem solving that is going to expand student skill. And then when they see them on the high stakes tests, right, then they're not intimidated. Have students tell you what the question is asking them to do and how they are going to execute that response, right? So I know we're going through all of these super quickly. Are there any questions about how math instruction can help with your prepping for DOK, but your high stakes tests?
Okay.
All right, great.
So let's shift now to strategy number 4, which is previewing for a purpose. So teach previewing for text features like title, headings, pictures and captions, graphs or charts, or maybe bold or italicized words. This is something that's easily practiced across all subject areas. So let's look at this science passage about the science behind riding a bike. So how is it structured? Here you see the passage divided by multiple headings. So what clues do the headings give? Each section describes a different law of physics that affects riding a bike. By previewing, we know quickly that the passage identifies each law and how it impacts cycling. You can add notes to summarize what the author wants you to know, what's important. And in this reading passage, teachers direct students to use the tools to highlight important information. Then they use the notepad to summarize the ideas. And these are all available as students work to answer the questions. So executing close reads every day with resources like the classroom reading passages, it allows students to practice these previewing strategies until they become second nature. Close reads build vocabulary, make students support their answers with evidence from text, and summarize ideas. Then they can add notes to share the rationale behind their answer choices. They can highlight the important parts of the questions, and you work with students to understand exactly what is being asked.
That's right. These activities elevate student learning and application skills, but what about a student who is working below level or even above level? When you have Classworks, you have access to all levels of reading passages, so this opens up a valuable opportunity to meet student needs at their level while keeping the DOK high. So some of you guys mentioned Lexile levels. Absolutely, this is the perfect place to use those. Use that Lexile level to assign small groups of students the level appropriate reading passages. So we're going to actually take a look at where that is in Classworks.
Okay. Yeah, reading passages can be previewed in instruction. So as we can see here, it's easy to see the genre, the Lexile level, the title of the passage, and even if it's a paired passage or not, which gives students that experience in comparing and analyzing. Then you move over to the Classes tab to assign them. You can pick a small group of students to assign it to, if you want them different groups working on different Lexile level passages. So they're working at their own level, but they're still working on text-dependent questions and responses. We're building student application skills as they connect these exercises when they are working on grade level. So written constructed response is an important part of a close read too, and it requires strategy as well. So next, let's talk about using strategies for planning and drafting constructed responses and essays, right? The most important habit students can adopt is planning before writing. We heard a mention of a graphic organizer earlier. Students should organize their thoughts in some way before diving into writing even a first draft. Often we think of graphic organizers for this. Outlines work too. Here are some examples of some graphic organizers. What are some other examples of organizers that you've used with students to organize their ideas before writing? You can just pop them into chat. Or maybe we've named them all. Yeah, but these exercises, whether you're just using graphic organizers and outlines, these are so important and valuable to students to organize their thinking before they attempt their response.
All right, so let's jump back over to an example of a passage. So students should first take time to locate the evidence in the text to support their answer. So here in this passage about the value of salt, you see the students pulling out the evidence that they found to support why salt is and was valuable. So here you see the student highlighted all the ways that salt is valuable. You see all the pink highlights, right? And that's supporting his answer. And then he's added that to his bubble map, right? So after collecting the evidence, then after that's all organized, then that's when they can shift their focus to the structure and flow of their writing, right? So in Classworks, this work mat is perfect for creating that story map or bubble map before typing in a response. So this applies to math as well, right? So in math, students should also plan responses when asked to write out their thinking. Students often separate what they do in language arts from what they do in math, but it's really the same thing, right? So use the work mat to list all those components of solving. Make sure to include those steps in solving the problem. And we recommend setting expectations for writing out thinking and modeling at all levels of the problems, whether it's progressing, meeting all levels, not just for the expanding problem. That way students get comfortable with the process and that expectation.
That's right. And so planning space is available on the high stakes tests. So make sure students understand how to utilize this important step. Our last but not at all least strategy is to create positivity, right? All of the strategies we mentioned today are solid instructional practices for any classroom, and creating positivity is high on the list. When teachers create a safe environment where students feel free to take risks and make mistakes, you are bestowing students with a true understanding of what it means to learn and grow. Teacher attitudes turn into student attitudes, right? Building student self-esteem and confidence play a huge role in student success on assessments. Stress is just as present now as it will be in May, so teach students stress-relieving strategies and practice them all year. And involve parents now. This goes beyond making sure students are well rested and fed on test days. Incorporate the strategies we talked about into homework and celebrate successes together. After all, we are in this together. We have some great resources for parents at Classworks. We have videos and letters that lay out the value of using individualized learning and assessment. We will be sure to share these as a follow-up to today's session. And for even more information about parents and technology, attend our Fall Summit session next Tuesday, which is about getting families comfortable with using technology.
So as a wrap-up activity, we're back to our questions again, right? So please, let's jump back into the chat and we'll start with our first question. So what was your favorite test power strategy? So we showed you A, using data to make groups and inform learning. B is teaching those multiple choice strategies. C is instructing using those DOK words so students can identify the outcome. D is incorporating previewing for purpose with close reads, and E, practice planning for written response. And of course, our last one was create positivity. What was resonating with you guys today?
So Dawn says C.
Yeah, instructing using DOK words. Oh, multiple choice strategies. Yeah, I think that can be very powerful for students. Yep. They were all great. Yay. E, yeah, the organization is great. And I don't think they always think about putting that into a high stakes test environment either. They do it as part of your writing workshops and things like that. We have a B and a C. Positivity as a foundation. Yeah, I love that too. Right now, I think we all need that. You can't move forward without that right now. That's great. Love it. Awesome. These were great answers. All right, so we have another question for you. What reporting do you think was most helpful to monitor students throughout the year? Of course, we're keeping high stakes tests in mind. So we showed you guys the recommendations report, and that's from our screener. Individualized grouping, which is also from our screener. Standards mastery is going to be all of those skills pulled from individualized learning. What do you feel like will be most powerful for you? Standards mastery. Oh, a lot of standards mastery. Yeah. Yeah. Knowing that the kids are really mastering those skills, that they are going to close their gaps and build their foundations is just so important. Great. Great. Yeah, good. I'm glad we've got some folks wanting to try our individualized grouping. That's great. All right. So what do you think of all of the things that we talked about that you really can put into practice right now, right away? Of course, we say embed these, but, we've got to, talk with folks, make sure everyone's on the same page. What do you feel like that you're going to try to push forward and put into practice right now? Great. Oh, good. Dawn's got a plan. Practice, positivity, and planning. Love it. Assigning instructions specific to student needs, right? It really helps monitor and gives you really good data too. Good. Lexiles, yay. Yep. That's great. That's awesome. Oh, great. We were excited that you guys have some good takeaways. Yeah.
Yep.
Can I ask a question about, you showed us some really great examples of students, highlighting text and putting notes, aside with their thinking and all that. What's the easiest way for a teacher to see that when she has a class of students that she needs to monitor?
To see the students, what the students are doing. Yep, she would just see that exactly in Classworks. So where we just talked about assigning right here in Classes tab, it would be through the Classes tab. So here, let me jump over to this other class down here. So this particular class actually has that exact content assigned. So they're going to go, you can see all of the kids here. And then you've got review and grade, which is going to, we don't have, let's see, we can go to all. It just so you can get an idea of what it's going to look like. So all the problems are here. You'll see the student's choice, whatever choice they made and whatever they did on the canvas here. So all of that is part of that. And then additionally, I've got to move faces here. The same for reading, right? So they're going to be able to go, let me see if I can get this one up. So you can see the particular passages that the kids worked on, and that is all going to show up here too. I might not have chosen a good one. This is our demo site, so it's our Wild West right here. So let's see here. I don't know which one they worked on. There we go. So you're able to see all of their, whatever they drew, whatever, like they, like their highlights, all of that kind of stuff. I don't know why I tripped on that. The highlights, anything that all their written responses, all of that kind of stuff, anything that was in there.
Well, and it's nice because especially if you still have kids working remotely, you can actually get insight into student thinking, not just find the finished product, right? You can really see how they tackled something in both reading and math by using this.
Right. I was hoping I could get that one student's up, but I don't see it.
We'll find it before the 11th.
Yeah, it's a great question though, Dawn. Thanks. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Whoops. Yes, thank you. And then my second question, are we going to have recordings of these sessions available to us?
Yes, what we're going to do is everything is being recorded through this whole fall summit. And again, like Melissa said, we're doing this this morning and again this late morning, I guess, 11 Eastern. And so at the end of the summit, for those that registered, they will be receiving the recordings. Yep. And then I also wanted to add, Dawn, to go on with your other question, is that so for assigning these, of course, you've got help center articles and all of that. But if you have a group of teachers that you would like to know specifically how to do this, we have Connect sessions, and they can sign up for those for free and just get a real quick tutorial how to do that, how to review the data, all of that. So, just never worry that we can always get them set up with how to do this. Exactly. We know we're going through all this really fast. We're trying to get you guys excited and get your wheels turning, right?
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
When you go into Classworks, into a class, and you click on a student, I've gone in before and I clicked on their assignments, and I've kind of been afraid I see their assignments and I've been afraid to go any further because I didn't want to affect their work. So when I go in, I'm not affecting any of their work. I'm just being able to view what they've done, their choices. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep. So are you referring to this content specifically, or are you thinking about Classworks in general with individualized learning and everything?
Just Classworks general.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're just viewing all of that, what they're doing, their mastery, their time on task, dates that they're working on. You're looking at real-time data, and it's going to be up to the minute.
And if you launch a Classworks game, the other side of the content from the teacher module, that's totally unrelated. Even if it shows as assigned to the student, it's never going to impact what the student has been assigned or doing, because you're launching the teacher view of it. So never fear, from the teacher view, you're not going to impact anything the student's been assigned or work they've done or work they're supposed to do.
That's true.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. These are great questions.
One question that came through my end, and it was about learning management systems. So teachers wanted to know if this content could be pulled through a Google Classroom or I guess Schoology.
Absolutely. Yep. So let me see. I'm going to see if I can show you exactly. So if you come over here, if you see, this is a integrated reading passage. And so you've got right here. No, because I guess I logged in the other way. Yeah.
You've already launched the activity.
Yeah, I launched it. So let me go back over here. When you launch any of these activities, like Melissa said, it's a great way to show them for particular, the students, right, to be able to work through it and go through it with them. So once you've launched it, you can embed it. And then and you can put that into a learning management system. Specifically, Google Classroom is directly there. You can link the web. But if you have like Schoology or Canvas, you can actually grab all of these activities in your LMS itself, right? And we have a session coming up actually just about that. If you wanted to attend that, just to kind of see how that works and how teachers are using Classworks content just to be part of the practice, automatically scored, all of that kind of stuff for students to support with their teaching in class. That has been a huge time saver for teachers during all of this pandemic learning that we've been.
That's also a great use for a Connect session, because you're like, hey, that's cool that you work with Google Classroom, but I use Canvas. I want someone to spend 30 minutes with a group of my teachers to show them how to work Classworks and Canvas together. So it can be exactly what you need for your learning management system, instead of asking people to make, if it works like that in Schoology, it's a little bit different with mine. So don't forget those free Connect sessions to get exactly for your teachers what they can put into practice.
Yeah, that's perfect. Awesome.
Judy, would you mind flipping to the All-Star slide real quick?
I would love to.
So while we wait for any last questions to come in, guys, I just want to highlight that our All-Star contest is about to kick off. This is our annual contest we do. It's our way of rewarding our All-Star teachers and students. The top 500 students across the country with the highest time on task, above 80% mastery, will be entered to win, and they will win an amazing prize. We've also got prizes for teachers. We have an incentive contest, a social media contest. We love to hear about the creative ways in which you engage students and the creative ways that you have been engaging students over this past year of virtual learning. So definitely follow us on social to keep tabs on that. And also the contests page on our website. If you go to classworks.com/contests, you can get all of the rules of entry and the nitty gritty there. But keep an eye out. It starts on November 1st, I believe. And yeah, just ramp up that mastery and time on task.
Yay.
Hey,
That's
Michael.
always so fun.
Yep.
Will you go over to the Classworks tab and just show people how to schedule a Connect session, since we've mentioned?
Sure. I'm in charge, Jen.
Okay.
Yep. So when you're logged into Classworks, over here, this would be, of course, I'm logged in as administrator, but you log in as your name, then you go to professional learning. All right. That's where all of our online courses are. It's going to open up another tab. Because if you're a registered teacher in Classworks or a registered user of Classworks, then you have access to all of these online courses for free. And so then you're just going to keep scrolling down, and this is where you see your Classworks Connect, okay? And that's what's going to, kind of explain what it is. But then if you just keep going, you can actually go to a calendar and schedule that exact date that you want to do that. You could pick a time like where you've got a PLC or just a shared planning with another coworker, or it could just be you and you have some specific questions. That's perfectly fine as well. So super easy to get here and do this. We would love for y'all to do this. So I feel like it's one of our underutilized resources, and it's a great one. So good idea, Jen. All right, let's see. So I think we had one more little announcement. We just wanted, again, we've referenced some of the other great sessions that we have that are coming up for next week. We've, normally we'd be out and on a road show with these PD sessions, but what's so fun about this is we can talk to so many different people and offer so much more content than we've ever been able to do before. So we have a lot that are still left. We still have, today we have another one of our high stakes test strategies. So if you have someone else that wants to jump in at 11 Eastern and 10 Central, you certainly can. Again, we have our LMS session. We have one specifically about social and emotional learning and your academic intervention coming up. Again, like Melissa told you about, the family is getting comfortable with technology. Hear from your peers is going to be super exciting because we have some great interviews with some folks that have just been, doing a great job of virtual learning and want to share their experiences. Strategies for Success in Special Education is coming up. That's really centered on IEP goal writing. So that's going to be a really, really fun interactive session. And then our last two are really fun because it's about what's coming and what's new in Classworks. We've been developing, changing things, for the better, having some exciting things happening. So you'll be able to get a sneak peek at that. And then this last one is if anyone in your district is new to Classworks and just kind of wants to know more about it, outside of just being completely trained, they could really need to come to this session and see what Classworks is all about. So we're excited to have you guys be part of it. And so you can keep signing up. No limits, not shut off or anything. We'd love to see everybody. That's my commercial.
And then would you just go to the next slide real quick, Judy? Just as another reminder, guys, don't forget to check in, fscheckin.classworks.com. Again, we're giving away $100 Amazon gift cards for the sessions raffles this week and next week. So any session you attend live, make sure you go and check in. You'll get a stamp on your virtual passport. Every stamp you get is another entry to win. So definitely don't miss out on this. It's literally right there waiting for you to win. So very easy. And that's my spiel.
We really appreciate you guys being with us. Again, if you have other people that you think might benefit from this session, we're going to do it again. So have them come on and see us.